the research vessel Orethra, the xenobiologist Eschatal sits before a curved holoscreen. She watches films of Earth wildlife in careful detail. Today, the screen shows a hidden forest hot spring on a distant blue planet. Eschatal leans forward as the image sharpens. A group of humans steps into the warm water. They move with ease, their bodies bare in the shallow pool. Eschatal's eyes dart across the screen, taking in the rich tones of human skin under dappled sunlight. Suddenly, she feels warmth rise in her chest. Her palms grow slick with moisture. She glances down in alarm, then forces herself to keep watching. Across the room, Lieutenant Rovny stands by a data terminal. He reads Eschatal's expression and frowns. "Are you all right?" he asks softly. She shakes her head, blinking, to clear her vision. My glands are reacting," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. The Vrylan body is not meant to yield to such reactions so easily. Their species evolved with firm control over every gland and muscle. Yet now, at the sight of naked humans, Eschatal's body betrays her. Small beads of fluid form at her temples. She presses a hand to her neck in a vain attempt to wipe them away. Lieutenant Rovny steps closer, frowning. "This is uncomfortable," he admits. His own hands glisten. Other crew members look away, trying to focus on their dials and readings. No one wants to speak about what is happening. On the Vrylan ships, discretion is prized. Public displays of natural fluids are highly shameful. Eschatal hurries to switch off the holofilm. The screen goes blank. A hush falls over the lab. Moments later, Admiral Shankor enters the room, his tall form trailing the soft hum of mechanical supports. He surveys the silent crowd and narrows his eyes when he notices wet streaks on Eschatal's uniform. "What is this disturbance?" he demands. His voice is firm yet calm. Eschatal straightens, though she is still shaken. "Admiral, it is the videos from Earth. When the footage showed humans in a hot spring, my body reacted. I could not stop the fluid release." Shankor's eyes narrow. He glances at the holoscreen, then back at Eschatal. "You say this is involuntary." Eschatal nods, feeling her cheeks heat. "I have not felt anything like this before. My glands usually remain under my control." The Admiral paces slowly, his boots echoing on the lab floor. Nearby scientists shift uncomfortably, eager to avoid any mention of bodily fluids. "Very well," Shankor says finally. "We will investigate why the sight of unclothed humans causes this reaction. You will prepare a full report by dawn." His tone leaves no room for argument. Eschatal bows deeply. "Yes, Admiral, I will begin immediately." The Admiral turns and exits, leaving behind a flurry of whispers. In the corridor outside, rumors spread like wildfire. Wet syndrome, some call it in low voices. Others say it must be a sign of weakness. Junior officers pass by, exchanging species relations forever. Guerrero, the ship's AI, hums quietly, as if ready to assist. And so, aboard the Orethra, the Vrylan mission to face humanity begins, fraught with mystery, urgency, and the very real fear that a simple, natural human state may hold the key to their success or their undoing. Admiral Shankor's landing craft shudders as it breaks through the thin layers of Earth's atmosphere. Inside the cabin, Eschatal's exosuit hums softly, filtering oxygen and monitoring her vital signs. She presses a gentle hand to the transparent visor, peering out at the rolling green landscape below. Outside, clouds drift lazily above dense forests and winding rivers. The atmosphere smells faintly of rain and wildflowers, nothing like the controlled environment of a Vrylan research vessel. Lieutenant Rovny stands beside her, adjusting a small data pad clipped to his belt. His fingertips glisten slightly, and he draws his hand back to tuck it inside his glove. "We are close," he says in a low voice. "Our sensors show human activity in a small settlement near the foothills." Eschatal nods, trying to focus on her breathing to steady the moisture that gathers at her temples. She forces herself to think of the mission, collect cultural data, observe human reactions to their presence, and find a way to avoid the uncontrollable wetness. When the craft's landing legs touch down, the hatch opens with a soft hiss. A team of 6 Vrylan officers steps onto the soil. Their seraph modesty suits cover every inch of their bodies, head to toe in light, insulating material. These suits are designed to keep them from any contact with human skin in case the wet response cannot be controlled. The group moves as one toward a nearby clearing, where officials from Earth wait to greet them. Dr. Lucia Marin, a human diplomat and cultural liaison, stands under a simple canopy of white fabric. She wears a dark blue jacket and neatly tailored trousers. Her hair is pulled back in a tight braid. Behind her, a small contingent of Earth scientists and security personnel stand at attention. When Eschital and Rencourt disembark, Dr. Marin steps forward with a warm, practiced smile. "Welcome to Earth," she says in careful Vreeland basic English. "We are honored to share our world with you." Eschital inclines her head politely. "Thank you, Ambassador Marin. We hope to learn much from your people." Behind Eschital, Lieutenant Rovny observes the surroundings. Tall trees swaying in a gentle breeze, birds flitting between branches, and distant laughter of children playing. Even so, Rovny's eyes flick to a natural hot spring visible at the edge of the clearing. A handful of humans, all wearing only simple swimwear, relax in the shallow water. Sunlight dances on their bare shoulders and arms. At that moment, Rovny's heart rate quickens. Moisture beads at the back of his neck. He clamps a gloved hand to his lower back, trying to hide the wet streak forming on his suit. Dr. Marin notices something, and her smile falters. "Is everything all right?" she asks quietly. Rovny forces himself to smile back. "I am well," he says, though his voice cracks ever so slightly. Eschital steps forward, hoping to change the subject. "Perhaps we should begin with a tour of your research facilities," she suggests. Marin nods and gestures toward a well-maintained path leading away from the hot spring. "Of course. Please follow me." As they move along the path, Eschital studies the human settlement. Small buildings made of sun-baked brick and wood cluster around a central plaza. Children run barefoot, laughing as they chase a small striped ball. Garden plots burst with tomatoes, beans, and herbs. Birds perch on rooftops, chirping melodiously. For the Vrylans, it is all marvel, the bright colors of flowers, the way the late afternoon sunlight strikes silver tin roofs, and the lushness of grasses despite recent rains. At the edge of the settlement stands the Earth Research Institute, a low rectangular building with large windows. Inside, humans work at computers, examine plant samples under microscopes, and scribble notes in neat script. Eschital steps into the bright room, her eyes widening at the sight of a ceiling-to-floor hollow display showing Earth's continents in vivid detail. One scientist, Dr. Naveen Chand, approaches to greet them. His dark hair is flecked with silver, and he wears a lab coat over casual jeans and a white shirt. "Welcome, Vrylan guests," Dr. Chand says with a respectful bow. "We have prepared materials for your study. We understand you have questions about human culture and physiology. We hope to assist however we can." Eschital inclines her head. "Thank you. Our first priority is to understand why our people experience an involuntary response when viewing exposed human skin." Dr. Chand's brow furrows. "Yes, we have heard reports. We have gathered various records of human skin in social and cultural contexts, ranging from paintings in classical galleries to photographs of indigenous tribes. We hope these resources help your research." Eschital and Lieutenant Rovny exchange glances. Both know that their mission must proceed carefully. If they view any images showing nudity, the wet response might overwhelm them again. Dr. Chand leads them to a secure data terminal and activates a hollow interface. On the screen appears a grid of images, portrait paintings of clothed humans, diagrams of human anatomy for medical students, and sketches of people in simple robes. Eschital studies the images, careful to avoid any that show more than minimal skin. She selects a few classical paintings depicting clothed figures. Rovny watches her, his own discomfort simmering. Meanwhile, Dr. Chand speaks softly to a colleague, gesturing toward the images. The colleague nods and dims the hollow screen to filter out images showing bare limbs. Within moments, all potentially triggering content is hidden. Eshtal allows herself to relax slightly, relieved that she can browse without fear of her body betraying her. She records notes on how humans represent their bodies in art and culture. Some artworks show elegant drapery, while others use symbolic motifs to suggest human form without explicit display. After an hour of study, Dr. Chand leads the Vrylan officers to a small conference room. A long, polished table stretches between comfortable chairs. At the head sits Ambassador Trenar, who offers them glasses of filtered water. Eschatal thanks him and sits across from him, placing her datapad on the table. Trenar's deep, blue eyes meet hers as he lowers his voice. "We must understand human customs quickly," he says. "Our mission cannot be delayed. The High Council expects results." Eschatal nods gravely. "We agree. Our next step should be a controlled observation of humans in limited public settings, where no one is unclothed. We need to study reactions to clothing, gestures, and social norms before advancing to riskier environments like hot springs." Trenar leans back, nodding. "I will arrange for you to meet with local historians and cultural experts. They will guide you through appropriate protocol." As the meeting ends, Eschatal and Lieutenant Rovny step outside into the cool evening air. The sun dips low behind distant hills, turning the sky a gentle orange. They walk side by side across the plaza, passing the children who now play catch with a small wooden hoop. Rovny watches a boy tumble as he tries to catch the hoop. The boy's scraped knee gleams red, but he scrambles up and laughs. Rovny feels a flicker of warmth in his chest, reminded that even painful moments hold beauty in human life. Eshtal glances at her companion, sensing his distraction. "It is strange," she says softly. "We came here expecting hostile reactions. Instead, we find kindness and curiosity." Rovny nods. "Yes, yet I still worry about that hot spring. One glimpse of naked skin, and our control fails." Eshtal smiles gently. "We will learn. We only need time and careful study." They pause at a wooden bench by a small fountain. Water trickles over smooth stones as night insects begin their chorus. Rovny sits and closes his eyes, breathing deeply. The gentle sound of water soothes him. Eschatal stands by his side, gazing at the stars that are beginning to appear overhead. She feels hope stirring within her, hope that Vrylan and human can coexist despite the strange barrier between them. The path ahead is uncertain, but she trusts that their shared desire to understand will guide them forward. Together, they watch as a pair of swallows swoop in formation above the rooftops. In that simple moment, two species dividing space yet sharing the same sky, Eshtal senses a fragile promise of harmony. The mission has only just begun, but already the beauty and resilience of Earth's people shine through. And somewhere, in the gentle night breeze, she believes, lies the key to solving their greatest challenge. Eschatal stepped into the brightly lit research wing of the Earth Research Institute early the next morning. Narrow sunbeams slanted through tall windows, casting long rectangles of light across the clean, white floors. Lieutenant Rovny followed closely, his expression steady but alert. Both Vrylan officers wore modesty suits that covered every part of their bodies. The suits were sleek and white, with small control panels on the forearms that monitored temperature and moisture levels. They moved cautiously among human scientists, who greeted them with polite bows and nods. Dr. Naveen Chand stood near a large hollow projector in the center of the laboratory. He wore a simple white lab coat and held a data stylus in one hand. "Welcome back, Vrylan friends," he said in clear, calm tones. "We have prepared a joint research station. Our goal is to understand why your species reacts strongly to exposed human skin. We hope to find a solution soon." Eshtal inclined her head. "Thank you, Dr. Chand. We appreciate your help. Our people need answers before direct contact begins." She motioned toward Rovny. "Lieutenant Rovny will assist me with data collection." Dr. Chand smiled. "Excellent. Please follow me." He led them to a section of the lab separated by transparent barriers. Inside, A series of hollow screens displayed images of human cultures and artifacts. On one wall, there was a digital gallery of paintings, photographs, and sketches showing people in various states of dress and undress, carefully curated to include only images that showed limbs covered in cloth. On another wall, holographics, outlines of human figures glowed softly, indicating areas of skin that would be shown during experiments, temperature and a small pulse quickening. Interesting, Dr. Chand murmured. So far, so good. A hush fell when Dr. Chand tapped the console again. The hollow figure's robes slid higher, revealing the torso under a thin wrap. Eshetal's breath quickened. She felt a warmth spread through her chest. Suddenly, moisture formed along her jawline. She tried to steady her posture. Rovni's brow furrowed as he watched the readings spike. Moisture output jumped 60% above baseline. He handed Eshetal a small cloth, which she used to dab at her cheek discreetly. Dr. Chand raised a gloved hand. Stop. Record data. He studied the readouts: moisture level, heart rate, and rapid breathing. We have crossed a threshold, he said quietly. The Vrylan physiology responds strongly when any significant area of bare human torso is visible. Eshetal nodded, her cheeks warm. This confirms our fears, she said in a calm voice. Even partial exposure of human skin triggers an involuntary reaction. Rovni stepped forward. We need to test a range of tones and textures, he suggested. Perhaps certain hues or patterns affect the response more than others. Dr. Chand agreed and brought up a series of hollow figures showing humans with different skin tones, body types, and lighting conditions. Each figure wore minimal cloth, revealing a variety of skin textures. The second round of experiments began. As Eshetal watched darker-toned hollow figures, her reaction was less intense, but still present. Moisture output rose to 40% above baseline and then settled. She noted each change in her datapad. Rovni watched intently, confirming that the reaction correlated with skin brightness contrast against the background. You see, Dr. Chand said, pointing to a chart that plotted moisture against contrast. When the visual information shows high contrast, bright skin against dark background, your system interprets it as a signal to hydrate. We believe your species evolved under different environmental conditions, where exposed flesh meant danger of dehydration. Eshetal drew in a steady breath. So our biology thinks human skin is a sign of a dry, hostile environment. We must look at this from an evolutionary perspective. On Vrylan, we developed in misty, humid climates, where skin was always covered to protect against acid rains. Dr. Chand nodded. Exactly. And humans evolved in varied climates. They rarely needed full body coverings. They adapted culturally to protect themselves when needed. But visually, your brain sends a signal that triggers these glands. Rovni tapped on his tablet. We should collaborate with cultural experts to understand when and why humans expose skin. Maybe we can find patterns or approve specific clothing designs that reduce contrast. At that moment, Ambassador Trenar entered the chamber. His deep voice carried authority. Any progress, Eshetal? He asked. Eshetal stepped aside to let him view the hollow charts. We have confirmed the trigger, she said. Our glands misinterpret bright, bare human skin as a threat. Now we need cultural context to guide our people in acceptable interactions. Trenar studied the data. We will need to inform the High Council soon, he said. If our delegates must meet humans in person, we must develop a protocol, perhaps a standard uniform for humans during talks. Dr. Chand offered a suggestion. Some Earth cultures wear light sarongs or wrap garments when meeting foreign dignitaries. If humans could agree to wear thin, neutral-colored clothing, the visual contrast would reduce your reaction. He tapped the hollow console and added translucent wraps to the hollow figures, covering torsos and legs in light cloth. This lowers the contrast value to an acceptable level. Your response remains under 10% above baseline. Eshetal's relief was visible even through her calm expression. That could work, she said. We will propose this at our next meeting. Humans will likely accept a small adaptation to ease contact. Rovni added. We should also share a brief explanation with human diplomatic staff. They must understand that it is not shame but physiology driving our request. Ambassador Trehanar nodded. Agreed. Prepare a joint statement. We will hold a press conference, together, to present our findings. Transparency will build trust on both sides. Doctor. Chand smiled broadly. Then let us begin drafting that statement. He tapped the console and a blank document appeared on the holoscreen. Eshtal and Rovni both stepped forward, ready to guide the wording. Outside the lab, the rest of the Vrylan delegation felt hope stirring. No longer did they fear a sudden flood of shame or confusion. If they could control their bodies through careful planning and cultural respect, first contact might yet succeed. And so, in the shared laboratory on Earth, two species took a step toward understanding, guided by science, respect, and the simple desire to see each other as equals rather than strangers. Admiral Shankor agreed to attend a human culture exchange festival, a celebration meant to honor both Earth's traditions and new guests from the stars. Weeks before the event, emissaries from Earth and the Vrylan delegation worked side by side to plan each detail. In a large outdoor pavilion built near the Research Institute, banners fluttered in the afternoon breeze. Lanterns were strung. High and long tables were set with simple foods, fresh fruits, roasted vegetables, and bowls of spiced rice. Music from human instruments, flutes, drums, and stringed lutes, filled the air, while dancers practiced under lantern light. The Vrylands watched intently. Eshtal recorded every movement, every gesture. The dancer's robes hid most skin, so the reaction in her was minimal. Rovni sipped cool water and smiled politely. Admiral Shankor's eyes followed each dancer. He admired the discipline and the calm coordination after weeks of study. But even as the music ended, a low murmur spread among the crowd. Coming next was the hot spring ritual, a display meant to honor Earth's long history of communal bathing in natural springs. Dr. Marin stepped forward to explain. Her voice was clear and gentle. The hot spring ritual shows how Earth people celebrate close ties and renewal of spirit. Participants wear tradition, wraps, or, where culture allows, no clothing at all. We wish to show you this humble tradition in hopes of sharing our heritage. She nodded toward a curtained area at one end of the pavilion. If you wish, you may observe from a respectful distance. Otherwise, we have additional performances and art displays to enjoy. For a moment, the Vrylands exchanged anxious glances. Eshtal felt her breath catch. Her palms tingled with a dampness she did not welcome. Rovni's throat felt tight. Admiral Shankor considered the promise they made, to honor Earth's culture while protecting Vrylan dignity. He lifted a hand to signal that they would stay. We will observe, he said, voice firm. Dr. Marin guided them to a raised platform at the edge of the curtained area. A low barrier of bamboo poles surrounded the opening. Beyond it, steamy air rose from a shallow pool carved from smooth stone. Warm water rippled as participants entered slowly. Some wore long cloth wraps, others wore loose shorts, but a few were completely without clothing, kneeling at the water's edge to ease aching muscles. Their skin, bathed in warm steam and firelight, glowed softly. As the Vrylands watched, Eshtal felt a sudden wave of warmth flood her chest. Her sensors signaled rising moisture. She pressed a hand to her throat to steady herself, but dampness spread along her suit. She focused on her breathing, determined to hold control. Rovni, standing nearby, saw her distress and placed a steadying hand on her arm. He felt his own suit growing damp. His vision blinked as he tried to keep his composure. Moments later, a soft gasp passed through the crowd when Eshtal's cheeks glistened and tiny beads formed on her forehead. Lieutenant Rovni's moist palm slipped from his grip, and he took a half step forward to hide his damp gloves behind his back. A neighboring Vrylan officer, Marasa, stared wide-eyed at the scene. Within seconds, two more officers succumbed to the reflex. Wet streaks appeared on their suits and they clutched their sleeves to wipe away fluid. A hush fell. Humans froze, uncertain of what to do. Dr. Marin stepped back, confusion and concern filling her eyes. She did not know that the sight of exposed human skin could trigger such a visceral reaction in a viewership. "Are you all right?" she called out. HFY bowed her head, attempting calm. "We are well," she said in an even tone. "This is an involuntary reaction." Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her embarrassment. The curious crowd murmured as human hosts looked to each other. Admiral Shankor straightened, shielding his damp collar with one hand. "This is a misunderstanding," he said in Vihrelan Basic English. "We respect your tradition, but our biology interprets certain visual cues as a threat. Please forgive us." Dr. Marin's face softened. She exchanged worried glances with her human colleagues. "We did not intend to cause you harm," she replied. "We will adjust. Please wait while we redirect the performance to something more comfortable for your people." A moment of silence followed. Then a human artist at the edge of the pavilion began a soft drum beat. A group of children emerged, carrying small bowls of flower petals. They scattered petals along the path in front of the Veer Islands, offering them as gifts. The colorful petals lay on the ground like a gentle carpet of friendship. Admiral Shankor nodded his head in gratitude. He raised a hand in thanks, and the Vihrelands accepted the flowers in a solemn gesture. Dr. Marin quickly addressed the crowd. "Friends, let us honor our guests with music and dance that share color and life without revealing sensitive traditions. We apologize for our oversight." She signaled the musicians to begin a familiar folk dance. Villagers joined in, swirling in circles with bright scarves and ribbons. The Vihrelands watched, their posture easing as no uncovered skin remained in view. As the assembly refocused on the new performance, HFY wiped her damp cheeks, trying to steady her breathing. Lieutenant Rovny dipped a cloth in cooling water from a small basin humans provided, gently wiping the moisture from his gloves. Admiral Shankor tightened his jaw, determined not to let this event derail diplomatic progress. In the next hour, artists and musicians shared crafts, pottery, and storytelling. Earth historians displayed paintings that featured fully draped figures and ancient ceremonies. Each station avoided any depiction of nudity. Dr. Chad drew a charcoal sketch of the EU Freelands in their modesty suits, handing copies to each officer as a gesture of goodwill. HFY studied the sketch, noting how humans honored their guests even after a misunderstanding. As the festival wound down, humans and Vihrelands gathered in small groups to converse. HFY approached Dr. Marin. "Thank you for understanding," she said quietly. "We do not wish to offend. Please help us learn when certain traditions might cause unintended harm." Dr. Marin nodded. "We will create a cultural guide for your people, one that explains when people might bathe or dance without clothing, and when modesty would be more appropriate." She paused, offering a warm smile. "We value honesty. Today's event showed that even in mistake, we can find respect and understanding." Admiral Shankor stepped forward, placing a formal handshake on Dr. Marin's forearm plate. "We appreciate your hospitality and swift action," he said. "Our mission continues. Together, we will build a relationship founded on trust." As night settled over the pavilion, lantern light shone on faces, human and Vihrelan alike, standing side by side. A gentle breeze carried the scent of jasmine and the distant sound of laughter. Though a misunderstanding had caused embarrassment, it also opened a path toward deeper connection. In those quiet moments under stars, both species felt promise, a future where differences were honored and unity grew from humility. ChatGPT said, "A week after the Culture Exchange Festival, HFY returned to the laboratory aboard Orithra, feeling hopeful. The inhibitor patch she and Dr. Naveen Chand had designed allowed Virilan officers to see humans without triggering their glands. She examined the readouts one last time, satisfied with the results. After her report, she left the lab and walked down a long corridor. The soft glow of overhead lights reflected off polished metal walls. Lieutenant Rovny joined her as she passed the communal lounge. He glanced at her pads. "Data is stable," he said quietly. "No unexpected spikes." HFY nodded. "Yes. The inhibitor works well when administered 30 minutes before exposure. But we should remain vigilant. She tapped the side of her modesty suit to confirm her own inhibitor dose. Rovni's fingers brushed his own patch as he replied, "Of course. We cannot risk a surprise encounter without it." Moments later, the ship's alert system chimed. A red light began to blink above the main entrance to the holovid room. Eschital and Rovni exchanged glances and hurried toward the disturbance. When they arrived, 3 Vrylan officers stood around a holoprojector, their suits damp and their expressions tense. A holographic image of a fully nude human flickered silently in the center of the room. "How did this get here?" Rovni demanded. He dropped into a crouch to deactivate the projector. The image vanished instantly. One of the officers, Saris, wiped her forehead. "I found it when I checked on the new cultural recordings," she said, voice trembling. "It was not part of the scheduled files." Eshtal crouched beside Saris. "Someone tampered with our data feed," she said calmly. "We need to trace its source." Dr. Chand and Lieutenant Rovni helped carry the projector back to the secure lab. As they worked, Eshtal scanned the locked data logs. Every authorized file transfer since the inhibitor protocol began appeared normal. But one odd entry jumped out. A brief uplink from an unknown terminal on Earth. "This is not part of our agreement," Eschital said. "No Earth station should send unapproved content." She tapped her stylus against the console. "I will alert Admiral Shankor." In the Admiral's quarters, Eshtal, Rovni, and Dr. Chand presented their findings. Shankor stood beside a projection of the ship's schematics. He frowned darkly as he reviewed the evidence. "This is deliberate sabotage," Shankor said. "Someone wants to humiliate our people by exposing them to naked human imagery." His voice was low but fierce. "Such a breach is unforgivable." Dr. Chand shared his own distress. "There are radical groups on Earth that oppose our presence. They operate in secret, using remote transmitters to interfere with Orithra's systems. They see us as invaders." Rovni added, "They must have placed hidden projectors aboard before we even left orbit. We simply did not notice them." Shankor considered the map of corridors marked on the holo. "We must find these devices before they cause more harm. I want a team to sweep every section of the ship, secure every projector, every holo source, and we must identify the human faction responsible." Eschital straightened. "I will organize a joint investigation team, Vrylan engineers and human security officers working together." Shankor nodded. "Report progress within 20 standard hours." Eshtal and Rovni led 6 engineers, 3 Vrylans and 3 humans, on a systematic search of Orithra. Each corridor, laboratory, and storage bay was inspected. The search team used handheld scanners that detected unauthorized signals. In one storage closet near the communications hub, a sleek black projector lay hidden behind spare parts. Cables snaked into ventilation ducts, leading toward the upper decks. Lieutenant Rovni knelt beside the device. "This one is linked to a remote uplink station back on Earth," he said. "Look at these coordinates." He tapped his tablet and traced a path to a small town not far from the research settlement. "They used our diplomatic goodwill as cover." He shook his head in disbelief. Eshtal gestured toward the corridor. "Seal this section and transport the device to the lab. We must identify its programming and signal patterns." The engineers carefully disconnected the projector and carried it away. "We cannot let them use our technology against us," Eschital added. "Contact the Orithra's communications officer. Arrange to trace any similar signals through the relay network." Over the next several hours, scattered projectors were found in the hydroponics bay, the recreation area, and even a small rest alcove near the crew quarters. Each device had a hidden uplink frequency. Eschital's heart sank as she realized how deeply the rogue faction had infiltrated the ship. They knew exactly where to place these projectors, where Vrylans would be at ease, she whispered to Rovni. They planned to shame us in moments of trust. Rovni placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We will stop them," he said firmly. As they returned to the lab, the communications officer reported that one signal had been traced to a farmhouse near a riverside road. The location matched the area where Dr. Chand had once lived. "We must act quickly," Shankor said through the console. "That transmitter could send more images at any time." A human security captain named Reyes volunteered to lead a small ground team. He set coordinates in his portable nav device. Eshetal, Rovni, and 2 Vrylan guards boarded a shuttle bound for the coordinates. Dr. Chand and 2 Earth security officers joined them. The shuttle's engines hummed as it lifted off, leaving Orithra to reposition for orbital surveillance. Upon landing, the team found a modest farmhouse surrounded by tall grasses. Night had begun to fall, and fireflies flickered in the field. No lights shone inside the house, but faint sounds of electronics hummed. Captain Reyes motioned for silence. Vrylan guards moved forward, their suits glowing dimly in the near darkness. They crept toward a side window where cables disappeared under the floorboards. Reyes tapped on the door. "Police, we're here to investigate unauthorized transmissions." Inside, a single lamp flicked on. A man in his 40s answered, hands raised in surrender. His clothes were simple, a worn shirt and trousers. He nodded as Reyes spoke. "We found projectors on an alien vessel tied to your property. Explain yourself." The man's eyes darted around before he spoke. I did not mean harm," he said, voice trembling. "I thought if I embarrassed them, they would go away. My friend said aliens would never understand human culture. We wanted to scare them off." Eshetal stepped forward. "You endangered them. They could have collapsed in public and tensions would have risen. Do you realize that your actions could start a conflict?" Tears formed in the man's eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I thought it was a harmless prank." "Captain," Reyes shook his head, "your signal equipment will be confiscated. We must bring you back to the settlement for questioning. But know this, your ignorance nearly destroyed trust between our peoples." The man nodded, head low. The Vrylan guards secured him gently. As the party returned to the shuttle, Eshetal looked at the man's fearful face and felt a mix of pity and resolve. "We must do more than punish," she said to Rovni. "We need education. If people come to fear us, they will act without thinking." Rovni agreed. "Yes. We will ask Earth leaders to hold community meetings, explain our biology and customs. Knowledge will prevent future sabotage." The shuttle lifted off, carrying the detained man and the signal devices back to Orithra. Dr. Chand reviewed the captured projector data. "I see nothing here that threatens your ship beyond failed attempts to humiliate," he said with a relieved sigh. "But we must remain vigilant." Eshetal nodded, rubbing a hand across her forehead. "Agreed. We continue our diplomatic mission, but we also assist Earth in teaching their people about interspecies respect." Rovni placed a hand on her shoulder. "Together, we will strengthen this alliance. Sabotage cannot stand against genuine understanding." And so, as Orithra sailed through Earth's atmosphere once more, the Vrylan and human teams prepared to heal the wounds of distrust. They had faced a direct threat from within Earth's own ranks, but by working side by side, they found a path forward, one built on education, cooperation, and the shared hope that neither species would let fear drive them apart. The small conference room aboard Orithra was quiet except for the soft hum of overhead lights. In the center sat the detained man, his hands bound gently but firmly. 2 human security officers stood nearby, watching as Dr. Naveen Chand prepared to question him. Eshetal and Lieutenant Rovni observed from a distance, their expressions serious. Admiral Shankor, flanked by Ambassador Traynor, entered and took a seat at the head of the table. The man lifted his head when he saw the Vrylan leaders, his face pale with fear. Dr. Chand spoke first. "We know you attempted to sabotage our mission by sending unauthorized images. Why did you do it?" The man swallowed, his voice trembling. "I thought if I scared them, they would leave Earth. My friends warned me that aliens would harm us. I believed I was protecting my people." He looked down. Eshetal's heart ached at his words. She stepped forward gently. "Fear can make people act without thinking, but your actions put us all at risk. You could have started a conflict." Lieutenant Rovny leaned forward, his tone measured. You must understand that our biology is different. We do not judge nudity as humans do. We reacted because our bodies misinterpret what we see. Our goal is friendship, not harm. The man's eyes filled with tears. I did not know. I see now I was wrong. Please forgive me. Ambassador Trenar nodded. We appreciate your honesty, but there must be consequences. You will help us teach your community why respect matters. Admiral Shankor spoke, in firm, calm tones. You endangered the lives of both species. We will hand you over to Earth authorities, but we ask that you assist with our educational program. You must explain to neighbors why some things are dangerous. The man bowed his head and nodded. He looked at Eschital. If it helps, I will tell them the truth. She offered a small, understanding smile. Thank you. That is all we ask. Later, that evening, Eschital and Dr. Chand met in a small office off the lab. Charts and notes filled the holoscreen. Eschital tapped at a graph showing inhibitor efficiency. We must create a clear guide, she said. It should explain why Vrilin glands respond to skin exposure and how the inhibitor works. Dr. Chand nodded. I can draft a simple pamphlet in human language and translate it into your tongue. We will show images of clothing types that reduce contrast. Eschital opened her datapad and added bullet points. 1. Vrilin bodies react to bright skin as though it signals danger. 2. The inhibitor patch blocks that signal. 3. Humans can help by wearing light clothing during meetings. She looked up at Dr. Chand. When can we distribute this? Dr. Chand checked his wrist display. Tomorrow. We can use local community centers and broadcast over public holograms. On Earth, in a nearby village hall, a group of human residents gathered. Some wore simple tunics, others dressed in modern casual shirts. The detained man stood near a small projector as the hologram of a Vrilin figure appeared on a raised platform. Eschital and Lieutenant Rovny faced the crowd from the back front. Dr. Chand stood by their side, translating their words. Eschital spoke gently. We came here to learn about your world. We did not intend to frighten you. Our bodies sometimes react strongly to visual signals we do not understand. She pointed to the hollow figure, now shaded to show areas of skin coverage. This is how your skin can look to us, bright against a dark background. Our brains think it is a sign of extreme dryness, so we secrete fluid to protect ourselves. The crowd listened, some nodding, others looking curious. Lieutenant, Rovny continued, the inhibitor patch blocks that signal. When we wear it, we can stand beside you without any problem. He held up a small, square patch attached to his uniform. A woman in the crowd raised her hand. So we should wear clothes that cover skin when you visit? Eschital shook her head gently. Not always. If you are in private spaces or at home, you may be comfortable. Lee. We will give community centers and places of meeting our guide, so you know when our delegates will come. She extended her hand toward the projector. For now, wearing light wraps or loose shirts in neutral colors helps us feel at ease. After the explanation, a hush fell over the hall. Then applause rose. People gathered near Eschital to ask questions. Can we show you our traditional dances? What colors help most? How do we use the patch? Each question was answered, patiently by the Vrilins and human experts. Eschital noticed relief on many faces. She understood that knowledge had turned fear into understanding. Back on Orithra, Admiral Shankor reviewed the report from Earth. He studied charts of public response and feedback messages. A smile eased the tension in his face as he saw rising acceptance and curiosity among humans. Lieutenant Rovny approached with a fresh datapad. Our program has reached 6 towns now. No further sabotage attempts. Shankor nodded approvingly. Good. We can proceed with the final stage of our mission. Treaty talks. That evening, Eschital stood at the observation deck, looking out at Earth's blue horizon. Beside her, Lieutenant Rovny placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Tomorrow we will meet again with humans for the treaty signing, he said softly. Eschatal exhaled slowly, gazing at the thin line of atmosphere glowing beneath the starlit sky. I hope our work has shown that despite misunderstandings we can trust one another. Rovni nodded. Yes. From fear and sabotage we have built friendship. That is our greatest victory. Eschatal turned to him with a grateful smile. Together, we will ensure no barrier, physical or cultural, stands between our peoples. They stood silently, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath them, each convinced that trust and cooperation would guide both species into a new era of peace. Eschatal stepped onto the raised platform in the grand ceremonial hall and looked across, the sea of faces. On one side sat human representatives dressed in light, neutral-colored wraps and shirts that covered most skin. On the other side, Vrylan delegates wore their modified modesty suits with inhibitor patches in place. Soft lights glowed overhead, and banners showing Earth's landscapes and Vrylan star maps hung along the walls. The air was quiet with anticipation. Today both species would sign a treaty of friendship and cooperation. Lieutenant Rovni stood beside Eschatal, his posture calm and proud. He checked his inhibitor patch one last time. Across from them, Dr. Naveen Chand and Ambassador Traynor exchanged polite nods with human dignitaries. At the center table, a long cloth-covered panel held 2 sealing pens. The treaty was printed in both Vrylan Basic English and the human common tongue. On each side of the table, small holographic projectors displayed simple diagrams. Hands shaking, stars overlapped with Earth's globe. These images symbolized unity. Admiral Shankor strode forward next. He raised his right hand to call for silence, and the crowd hushed instantly. He spoke in clear, measured tones. Today we stand at the edge of a new era. We have learned that our bodies and cultures differ, yet our hearts can beat as one. Let this treaty bind our worlds in trust, respect, and shared knowledge. As he spoke, Eschatal noted how the inhibitor patch allowed him to speak without faltering when he glanced at human skin. Moisture levels remained steady, confirming the patch's success. Dr. Lucia Maren, the human cultural liaison, rose next. She adjusted her robe and smiled warmly. We welcome you, Vrylan friends, to Earth's Council of Nations. In our world, we learn and grow from each other's differences. We promise to honor your ways just as we ask you to respect ours. This treaty is the fruit of our shared work, through science, art, and open hearts. Her words drew gentle applause from both human and Vrylan attendees. Eschatal felt a quiet pride as she listened. At last, Dr. Naveen Chand moved forward and picked up one of the sealing pens. He dipped it in blue ink and slid one copy of the treaty across to Admiral Shankor. Shankor dipped his own pen and signed the document with precise strokes. As the ink dried, Shankor passed the document back to Dr. Chand, who then slid the matching human language copy to Ambassador Traynor. Traynor signed with equal care. When they finished, 2 assistants rose to place the pages into a transparent case at the center of the table. A soft chime rang through the hall. Holographic projectors shifted to display the words "Together we stand" in both scripts. For a moment there was stunned silence. Then 2 cheers rose, first from Vrylan voices, low and resonant, then from human voices, bright and clear. The sound blended into one, echoing under the vaulted ceiling. Eschatal felt warmth sink into her chest as she bowed her head in respect. For the first time, both species celebrated without fear. Following the ceremony, guests moved to the celebration area. Long tables were arranged with earth fruits, vegetables, and simple Vrylan fruits preserved in sweet solutions. Musicians from both worlds took their places on a small stage. On the left, Vrylan artists played soft, reed-based instruments. On the right, humans played flutes and stringed lutes. Together, they performed a harmony that wove alien scales with human melodies. Notes drifted across the hall, carrying a message of hope in every tone. Eschatal wandered among the guests, speaking quietly with human scholars and Vrylan engineers alike. She stopped at a holographic station showing the anthropoid moisture reflex study. Charts displayed side by side. One chart mapped Vrylan moisture levels when seeing varied human skin tones without inhibitors. The other chart showed levels with inhibitors in place. Visitors paused to examine the data. A human doctor tapped on the screen, pointing out how inhibitor patches reduced moisture to near zero, enabling calm interactions. Lieutenant Rovny joined her at the station. He traced a glowing line on the holo chart. "I remember when we first watched humans in the hot spring," he said quietly. "We could not control our bodies. It felt like shame itself." Eshtal nodded. "Now we stand, among them as equals. Our bodies no longer betray us. Science brought us peace." She placed her hand on his. "This is only the beginning." Rovny's eyes glowed with hope as he looked at her. Later, in a quieter corner, Admiral Shankor addressed a small group of human children who had come with their families. He knelt to meet their eyes and held out a small crystal sphere, a gift from the Vrylan archives. "This sphere records our star routes," he said, voice gentle. "One day you may travel here and see our homeworld." The children's eyes widened. One boy, no older than 10, touched the sphere's smooth surface and whispered, "I want to meet your people." Shankor smiled. "Then learn well, young one. Friendship is the greatest voyage." By the end of the evening, the hall emptied, slowly under soft, twinkling lights. Eshtal returned to the observation deck where glass panels framed Earth's night sky. Stars glittered overhead, and distant city lights glowed softly below. She thought of the journey that began with confusion and fear, a journey of simple steps that led to unity. A gentle hum from the ship's AI reminded her it was late. She closed her eyes and reflected on all they had accomplished. In the days that followed, Vrylan and human researchers finalized a joint paper on the anthropoid moisture reflex. It detailed the visual triggers, neurochemical pathways, and inhibitor design. The paper's title in both Vrylan and human scripts appeared side by side on the cover. Within weeks, it circulated through scientific networks across Earth and Vrylan space, teaching other species how to avoid similar misunderstandings. Finally, on a clear afternoon, a statue was unveiled in the heart of the settlement's central plaza. A modest pedestal held two figures, one Vrylan and one human, standing side by side, arms extended as though reaching for each other. Water gently trickled over stones that surrounded the figures, symbolizing both the Vrylan challenge and the shared journey through fluid barriers. Children laughed as they ran their hands through the cool water, and elders bowed respectfully. The statue's inscription read, "Unity in Understanding." Eshtal stood among the crowd, her modesty suit dry and comfortable. Lieutenant Rovny's hand rested lightly on her shoulder. She could hear human voices discussing future projects, shared colleges, joint missions, and cultural exchanges. Vrylan voices spoke of ways to adapt their customs and technologies to Earth's varied climates. Both species looked at each other without fear. In that moment, Eshtal felt a peaceful certainty. By embracing both science and empathy, they had turned an involuntary reaction into a lasting bond.